Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Golden Boys 1881 YouTube channel, and welcome to the start of the Golden Boys 1881 Talks podcast. Today, we are joined by James, who is the founder of TheWatfordWay on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. How are you today, James? And how's it? How do you feel now that we're going to be in the Premier League next season? Yeah, yeah. So, talking about transfers in a way, we've had this thing that just randomly broke out yesterday in the academy with players such as Bailey Spencer Adams, Mitchell Burkamp, Toby Stevenson's, I think his name is, all leaving. Um, was this a shock to you, and do you think this could affect us in the future? Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we'll go back to more about signing youth players, but again, with people leaving, we got Ashraf Lazar and Carlos Sanchez, but we know that they signed for us during January and for a 6 month deal on their contract. But was it expected to see them leave this early? I mean, looking on social media about this midfield and left back or fullback positions that the club are looking to strengthen, again, it was no surprise to see Ashraf Lazar leave, as we are in talks with this, I think, fullback from Scotland, and also a Ashley Young as well. So also with like looking going back to the midfielder part, because we got Queener out on loan, which was a shocking news for everyone. We've also got Josh Doig. I think he plays for Hibs in the Scottish Premier League, and he's looking, and we're looking to sign him for reportedly of 4 million. And we've also had the news that broke out earlier today that Tom Cleverley is looking to sign a 3 year contract. How much of a way do you think is a battle for all the players to try and get to that starting 11 or substitute spot for the midfield role. Yeah, but I think it's slowly beginning to become more understanding now because we were obviously, as you said, looking for Sam Ferguson. I think that's his name, and Josh Doig, and we got the new player Barr. Never gonna be able to pronounce his first name, but they're all uh, good and inexperienced in a way youth players, and possibly they're the replacements for all the youth players that we saw depart yesterday. Um, but speaking of more transfer speculations, we've reportedly from South America, and don't know whether this is true or not, but they also said about Rafael Santos Borre from River Plate. They also said that we have roughly £150 million to spend, which is a hell of a lot. But if we do have this much money, what can you see Watford as a club doing with all this money? Yeah, yeah, mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, Carrying on talking to players such as Ivan Tony, obviously this person recently got an award for whilst playing for Peterborough, is Clark Harris. I think he's a striker who's very much similar to Ivan Tony with amazing goal contributions this season. Obviously, the Championship being harder than League One in the league that Peterborough play in, but I think with players such as Clark Harris, he's good. I don't know whether this is similar with Ivan Tony or not, but he's good in the Championship and in the League One because we did see Ivan Tony at Peterborough before moving to Brentford. But is the Premier League too much for them? Because we've seen that with a couple of players in the Premier League, such as I believe Andre Gray and Isaac Success, because I can't really see them performing too well in the Premier League next season. But do you think that could be similar with Ivan Tony or even possibly Clark Harris at Peterborough? Yeah, yeah. And there's quite a lot of players within the Watford squad, such as Stipe Pritzar, Ben Wilmot, who we all like when they arrived, like Ben Wilmot arriving back on loan, and Pritzar once he came here after joining Udinese at the beginning of the season. He were expected them to be involved quite a lot, but I think ever since Ivic left, Ben Wilmot hasn't been playing, and I don't think Stip Ritz has either played once since Munoz's arrival. But do you think it's possibly the end of those two players' time at Watford? Because we did see Ben Wilmot have some sort of speculations with clubs outside of Watford. Yeah, yeah. But obviously, because obviously after winning again, getting the 3 points against Millwall, saw us get promoted to the Premier League. There has been news that possibly Gerard Deulofeu could return back to Watford, and if he does join us again, say he does sign us for whatever amount of money, who do you think he could? Who do you think you could see him replacing at the club? Because when he was at Watford, the season we got relegated, he wasn't performing as well as a striker. I thought he was more of a winger. But what's your verdict on this? Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Because we also have Ignacio Picetto out on loan, and a lot of Watford fans have been. It's been controversial to the Watford fans whether letting him out on loan was a good thing. Also, whether he should return back to the club after his loan spell at Udinese. But obviously, he's recently picked up a what looks like a knee injury a couple of months ago. But do you see him returning to the club because, or do you think he could return back to his boyhood club at Udinese? Well, you were speaking about him earlier, and that's the Brazilian star João Pedro, who loads of Watford fans nowadays are thinking he's been appearing or playing a lot better than what Richarlison had done when he was at Watford. But the news that's gone around him and the headlines is that he recently signed a contract until, I believe, 2027, which is a huge amount of uh, or a chunk amount of time in his career. But do you see him staying? Well, it's got to be obviously a hard question to answer, looking into the future, whether he stay in the league or not. But do you see him staying for a large majority of the time between now and 2027? Yeah, it's amazing how we've got a player signing for a club like Watford, not the most famous of clubs, if not underrated clubs, um, in England. But it's going back to like fighting for a certain spot in the lineup, because we got uh, battle for midfield as we've just spoken about. We got a battle for left back with Messina, Ashley Young, who's coming in, and the new Scottish player. I forgot his name already. Doyd, I think it was. But we've also got striker, because obviously we just spoke about the talks of De La Fey possibly returning, Ignacio Paceto's loan expiring at Udinese. But also we've got at Getafe is Joan Camilo Hernandez. Do you see him able to stay at Watford, or do you think what will happen to him is going to be similar to what happened to Luis Suarez at the beginning of the season? Yeah. Well, we see there's also more talks with what I can't remember exactly what position he plays in, but it's more of a midfield attacking like winging role, if that makes any sense. But from Newcastle, it's Jacob Murphy, and he's a he's not gonna start in my opinion unless he switch, because I know he's more of a right-footed player playing down the right-hand side of the pitch. But I can't see him replacing players such as Ismail Assar. But he'll have to do some taking to replace Ken Sema. And what do you think do you think it's a good signing if we do manage to sign someone with a decent amount of Premier League experience, such as Jacob Murphy? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the news broke out back in the 28th of April that Watford were planning to offer Newcastle a fee of £6 million for Jacob Murphy as his contract expires at the end of the season. But however, Newcastle were wanting to renew his contracts despite likes of Burnley, Southampton, and Scottish side Rangers were all looking to sign him. So I presume the talks with Watford trying to sign him have also gone down. If you had to pick anyone, you may have spoke a little bit about this in a couple of minutes ago. As we've got promoted, as we get all the promotion money into our budget, who would you like to see at the club next season to help us improve our weaknesses in the lineup? Watford type of signings.
With the players we bring in and the players we've got, I'd be happy. You know, dream signing. It's so difficult. Um, I mean, I meant Ivan Tony earlier. That would be fantastic, but even that I think is really unrealistic. I'd probably go with someone like a Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who's currently at Fulham on loan from Chelsea, or even maybe a Tammy Abraham. Actually, I think that's a good one to throw out there. Tammy Abraham, currently out of favour at Chelsea, Premier League proven, scored loads and loads of goals. Another English player as well, which is great to see. So for me, we want to add to that striking position. Tammy Abraham will be available. I'd go with Tammy Abraham.
Yeah, because I have heard that he is looking to leave the top six side Chelsea. Well, I'm going to share the screen right now to the Premier League, well, not Premier League, but the playoffs and the Championship. What's it called? Table at the moment, and pretty much let's try and find it quickly. Yeah, here we are. So as we can see, we were 6 points below Norwich. Obviously, Norwich were the team who finished rock bottom of the league last season in the Premier League. Do you think Norwich could be seen as the better side out of us two next season?
I actually think Watford will finish higher than Norwich. Actually, Norwich are a very they're a yo-yo team. They go up, they come straight back down. They go up, they come straight back down. And I think Arsenal seem to be very interested in Emi Buendia at Norwich. And I think if they lose Buendia, they'll find it very difficult to replace him. So yeah, absolutely. I think that Watford will finish higher than Norwich next season. And I actually think Norwich could potentially be relegated again because they've got a lot of players now who are rooming with other clubs. Max Aaron's another one. Manchester United. I think Manchester City may even be interested in him. So they've got a lot of players linked away. And can they recruit correctly? I'm not so sure. So yeah, I do think Watford will next season.
We'll have a quick look at the playoff section as we saw the other day. 3 days ago, Barnsley lost to Swansea and Bournemouth beat Brentford in the first leg. who do you think out of those in those two games could be seen as the champion of the playoff finals? Obviously, the second leg still yet to happen. Who do you think could be in the Premier League next season? Because I don't want either Swansea or Bournemouth to get promoted. Obviously, it's quite saddening to see both of them currently winning the first leg. But yeah, what's your verdict on this?
Well, as you can see on your screen there, I think that is still all to play for. You know, Bournemouth currently beating Brentford 1-0. You know, halfway through the tie at the moment, and Swansea currently beating Barnsley, but it's still all to play for in them second leg games. I think that for me, you know, being the person I am, I really want Barnsley to go. I think Barnsley have been, you know, the Championship underdogs this season, nearly getting relegated last year, and you know, this year finishing in the playoff positions and, you know, challenging, you know, much bigger teams than them for Premier League football. So for me, I'd love to see Barnsley go up. If it's not going to be Barnsley, I'm actually going to say Bournemouth, just because I really like the rivalry that we've got with Bournemouth at the moment. I think the fans hate each other, the players hate each other. So just for the game and you know, going to the game and being in the atmosphere, if it's not going to be Barnsley to go up, I'd definitely say Bournemouth to go up.
Well, I think because we saw it in the Premier League just this weekend or last weekend and during the midweek, is that fans have began to return to the stadiums watching the matches. Around 8,000. I think they were all home fans as well. So I presume if it does happen, I'm not too sure whether it's will or not. If that does happen with Brentford against Bournemouth, then Brentford obviously have a good chance of even bringing it to extra time, or if not, winning it. And I mean, how much I do want Barnsley to beat Swansea, I could still see Swansea going to the final because obviously Swansea are a bigger club than Barnsley, and obviously the amount of pressure that the Barnsley players will have going into the final, which they won't be used to before, compared to Swansea, who've been in the previous few years, if you want to call them a yo-yo team, you can't like that because they were in the Premier League not too long ago. Now they're in a Championship, constantly fighting for that playoff or automatic position spot. So that will be everything for today's podcast. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you so much for James for joining this week. Or
no worries, really do appreciate it, and yeah, make sure to keep listening to the podcast. Really do appreciate being asked to come on to be the first guest. So thank you very much for that, and yeah, really enjoyed it, and hopefully you'll be making many more of these to come next season, talking about lots of wins in the Premier League. So yeah, thank you very much for having me on.
No worries. So make sure to go into the description to find James's YouTube channel for the Watford Way. Make sure to drop a like in all of his videos, and make sure to subscribe. And that will be everything in today's podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like and subscribe.